Hello everyone! In this week's video, I'm going to be talking about layers and how to use them and different settings and all kinds of different stuff related to layers. I've talked a bit about layers in previous videos, but a lot of people find them really confusing, so I wanted to make a video dedicated to layers. Layers can be really confusing, especially when you're first getting into digital art, but hopefully this video will help. So what are layers? You can think of layers as pieces of paper that are stacked on top of each other. If I draw something on the top sheet of paper, it won't affect the other pieces of paper. I can also draw something on the bottom piece of paper and it won't affect the top piece of paper. So layers are basically just like separate pieces of paper. Layers also display in the order they are placed in. So here I have two layers, one is colored pink and the other is colored blue. If the blue layer is on top, all we'll see is blue. But if I put the pink layer above the blue layer, we can now see the pink. You might be wondering how you should order your layers. This is different for everyone, but mine often go something like this. First I have my sketch layer. I often have multiple layers, but I'm simplifying it for the video. Then I have my line art layer above that. After I finish my line art, I turn off my sketch layer by pressing the I button next to it. When I think I'm done editing a layer, I sometimes like to lock the layer by pressing the lock layer button. This makes it so I can't make changes to the layer, that way I don't accidentally draw on the layer and ruin it. If I want to make a change to the layer, I can unlock the layer by pressing the lock button again. For the coloring, I put it under my line art layer, that way I don't cover the line art. When coloring, I often use multiple layers, one for the skin, hair, clothing, and so on. To help things stay organized, I often group all of my color layers into a folder. Now let's talk about clipping layers. Clipping layers make it so that I can't color outside of a certain area. So I have this circle on layer 1. Next I create a new layer above layer 1. Then I click the Clip at Layer Below button. Now that the layer is clipped, I can color outside of the circle. Clipping is great for coloring since I don't have to worry about coloring outside of the area I want to color. You can also clip layers to folders. This is great for when wanting to color multiple areas that are on different layers. There is also another function that works similar to a clipping layer, and that is Lock Transparent Pixel. If I press this button, it will make it so I can't color outside of things I drew on that layer. I prefer to use clipping layers, that way I don't have to refill in my base colors if I mess up. Under the coloring layers, I sometimes have layers for the background. For some pictures, I'll also add layers above all the other layers for things like foreground elements or lighting. So to recap, I order my layers something like this. Next, let's talk about layer modes. Layer modes change how layers interact with each other and can be really useful when wanting a certain effect. When it comes to layer modes, I often don't know exactly what I'm doing. I often just scroll through them until I find one I like. However, I do have layer modes that I often use, so I'll talk about those ones. Multiply. I like to use multiply when adding shading. It kind of adds a little of my base color to the shadow color. It also just makes the colors overall darker, and I like how it looks. Add glow. Add glow, also known as dodge or dodge glow, is great when adding highlights or glowing effects. Next, let's talk about correction layers. Correction layers allow you to make corrections to a picture. When I create a new correction layer, the effect applies to layers below the created correction layer. Correction layers, other than reverse gradient, can be re-edited by double-clicking the correction layer. If you delete the correction layer, the picture will go back to normal. Brightness/contrast, level correction, and tone curve all adjust the contrast of the picture. They all just do it a little differently. Hue/saturation/luminosity adjusts the hue, saturation, and luminosity of a picture. I'm not totally sure what posterization does, but it gives a really cool effect. Color balance is nice for adjusting colors, like if I want the shadow of the picture to be more purple, I can easily adjust that. Binarization, I hope I'm saying that right, converts a picture into a black and white duotone picture. Reverse gradient inverts colors. Gradient map makes each shade in the picture replaced with one of the colors of the gradient. Lastly, let's talk about the layer property section. If you do not see this section, go to Window and then click Layer Property. Under Expression Color, you can change how a layer displays colors. Color is just normal color, gray is grayscale, and monochrome only displays black and white. Under the Effect area, we have Border Effect. You can give an edge to the layer. You can change how thick the edge is by sliding the Thickness of Edges slider. This is actually really cool, and I didn't know about it until I was making this video. Border of Watercolor gives the layer a softer edge. The area slider changes how thick the border is. Transparency changes how transparent the border is. Luminosity effect makes the border lighter and darker, and blurring width adjusts how soft the edge is. Next we have the Extract Outline property. It'll create the outline of the shape and then get rid of the shape but keep the outline. This property has a lot of settings that are kind of complicated, so I'm going to move on to the next one. Tone converts the layer into a screen tone. You can change how many rows of dots there are. You can also change the shape of the dots. Lastly, Layer Color changes the color of the layer. This is handy for when wanting to change the color of your line art. So that is all I have to say about layers for this video. I hope you enjoyed this video and that it was helpful. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all next week in my next video. Bye!